ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौरांगी श्रीराधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. I welcome all the devotees to our 20th session on the Gajendra Prarthana, Gajendra Stuti discussions. We left off the verse midway yesterday because we finished 2 lines and the time was up. So today we will continue from that point and then we will take the discussion ahead as long as Krishna lets us go for an hour. I see many senior devotees joining in, headed by Hare Prabhu from Austin and many other devotees. So I want to offer my obeisances to each one of you who has joined, all the senior Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, all the Matajis and Prabhujis who are giving your invaluable time, joining in from different parts of America and other places of the world. My obeisances to each one of you for kindly participating in this discussion. So let us continue. We were at text 11 yesterday. So we will quickly read the verse. We have already read the translation and the purport yesterday. So we will quickly read the Sanskrit verse one more time and then we will continue with our discussion, after which we will go to text 12. Satvena pratilabhyaya naishkarmyena vipashchita nama kaivalyanathaya nirvana sukha samvide. Satvena pratilabhyaya naishkarmyena vipashchita namaha kaivalyanathaya nirvana sukha samvide. Satvena pratilabhyaya naishkarmyena vipashchita nama kaivalyanathaya nirvana sukha samvide. For those who are just joining us, we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 3, Text 11, continuation of the Gajendra Stuti discussions. Yesterday we discussed Satvena pratilabhyaya naishkarmyena vipashchita. Very specifically, I want to spend some more time on this word naishkarmyena vipashchita. We discussed the first 2 lines, so there's not much to be discussed again. However, for those who are joining us, who didn't join us yesterday, I'll quickly give a brief overview of what's happening. Gajendra in this verse is speaking about what qualifications are needed in a devotee's life to approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And Gajendra has said many beautiful things here. In fact, every verse of Gajendra Stuti reveals philosophical truths. Like for example, in the initial verses, Gajendra speaks about how the Lord has a spiritual form and he doesn't have a material form. Na vidyate yasya cha janma karma va. So he says, na vidyate. There is no janma, karma, nama, guna, dosha, etc. in the Supreme Lord. However, we know from the Gita, Krishna says, janma, karma, chame, divyam. So when Gajendra is saying you have no form, and Krishna is saying I have a form, Both are correct because devotee cannot lie and the Supreme Lord cannot lie. So very wonderfully reconciled. Prabhupada explains that Krishna has a form which is spiritual. This is why Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam. Divyam means transcendental, very highly spiritual, which cannot be conceived. And when Gajendra says you don't have a form, that means you don't have a material form. So initially the discussions start from that point. Later in the Gajendra Stuti verses we see that Gajendra calls out to the Supreme Lord as Namaha Atma Pradipaya Sakshine Paramatmane Namo Giram Viduraya Manasas Chetasamapi. He calls Krishna as Sakshine, which means you are the only Sakshi, you are the only active witness through all the processes in this world and other worlds also. Like there are many creation, Srishti, many Pralaya going on. There's lots of creation, maintenance and destruction going on at every step. And the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, is the only vital active witness about this whole process. He says, it is very difficult to get you, O Krishna. It is very difficult. It is very, very difficult. But however, it is not impossible. Not everyone can get it from the basis of what character they carry, but there are very high standards needed to get to the Supreme Lord. On our own ability, it is not possible. But when the Supreme Lord agrees, then it is possible. Just like even if the person is the richest person in this world, or is the most intelligent person in this world, or let's say he is the biggest, he's in the biggest political position, let's say he's the president of the most strongest country in the world, still he cannot make moon rise in the middle of a summer afternoon because it is very hot and the temperature has gone over, let's say 110 Fahrenheit. That doesn't mean on the basis of his material prowess, he can make the moon rise and make everyone bathe in the moonbeams, which are very soothing and cooling. So what it means is that our ability goes up to a certain level, but it cannot even make a sun or moon rise. What to speak of the Lord of the sun and the moon, Sri Krishna, rise in our lives? It's not possible. But however, we understand if one has a very specific quality, then even if we are not able to catch Krishna and we are not able to perceive him, Krishna comes in the realm of our sense perception. Classic example, we see that if there is someone who has stopped the competitive exams in India, let's say there is a very, very cutthroat competitive educational entrance exam. Let's say it's the entrance to the premium institute, the IIT, Indian Institute of Technology. And let's say there is someone who has topped this and he has come all India first. It's possible that if his score is very impressive and at the same time he has a very strong profile and he has also contributed in many other ways, it's possible that the education head of the education board, or let's say even the Prime Minister, may decide to meet him. Being young, if he's very charismatic and has contributed profusely in the field of research and development and educational abilities, then it's possible that the Prime Minister or even the President would like to have an appointment, a meeting with him. When the higher-ups, like the President or the Prime Minister, decide to meet the boy, then the boy will definitely meet the President. But if the boy tries on his own, even getting number 1 on a competitive exam is not enough to meet the Prime Minister or the President. But if the Prime Minister is pleased, it's possible he may take interest and he may call in the boy, and definitely the boy will meet. So the point is, if we try on our own with all of our abilities, still we cannot pull in Krishna in the purview of our sense perception. But if we meet the criteria that the Supreme Lord is looking for, and if we please his heart, then if the Supreme Lord decides to meet us, then we will definitely meet him. I remember last year, Janmashtami, I had the good fortune of being in the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, ISKCON Vrindavan. And it was interesting because hundreds and thousands of people had gathered there for the night of Janmashtami to see the very beautiful smiling faces of Krishna and Balaram. as at the night of Janmashtami, Krishna is appearing. So everybody wanted to take darshan of Krishna and Balaram in the ISKCON Vrindavan temple. And I remember very evidently, vividly, that the kirtan went on peaking up. And as it was about 10:30, 11 o'clock, there was Abhishek. There was first an Kalash Abhishek, then there was main Abhishek. And the kirtan went on picking up. And then the curtains closed. There was a change in outfit. Then there was an Arati. The curtains opened. And then the curtains closed. And the kirtan would pick up again. And everybody would start shouting the names of Krishna and Balaram. And the pujaris were instructed by the head pujari to open up the curtain again so that everyone can have darshan after the curtains were closed. So the curtains opened up again and everyone started screaming the names of Krishna and Balaram. They were so excited. And as the kirtan continued, and it was the devotees were very enthusiastic. And after about a few minutes, the pujaris closed the curtain again. And again the devotees became very enthusiastic and they started loudly singing the names of Krishna. And again the curtains opened. So what do we understand from this? We can never, on our own ability, once the curtain is closed, let's say at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or at 9 o'clock at night, once the curtain is closed, we can't do anything to open the curtain and see the Lord. But on the night of Janmashtami, what happened was, seeing the enthusiasm of the devotees who wanted to have darshan, the Supreme Lord inspired the pujari to open up the curtain. So when Krishna decides, or the pujari on behalf of Krishna decides, that's when the curtain will open, and that's when the devotees will have darshan of Krishna and Balaram. But however, if the curtain is not opening, the devotees cannot, even with their pumping kirtan, they cannot climb onto the altar and rip the curtain. That is not possible. So the point is, when we, in our spirit of devotion, and in our ability of pleasing Krishna's heart are very intense and one-pointed, then Krishna as Paramatma will come in the purview and he will open up the curtain of impossibility and reveal himself. So till now Gajendra has made this point that it is not possible, Krishna, for anyone to see you unless you agree to reveal yourself to that person. It's just like if you ask any person on the street that I give you this open piece of land, you please kindly fill it up with trees and grains and nice crops and etc. The person will look around, and if he doesn't have the ability and the knowledge how to do it, he would just say, well, this is a waste tract of land. But however, when you give it to an expert farmer, he exactly knows how to use his bull, how to plow the field, how to sow the seeds, how to water them, with what temperature, how to act in rain and how to act in the scorching sun. And in this way, with proper cultivation, keeping away the other animals and keeping away the weed, he in no time, in a few months or in a couple of years, he will fill the whole land with trees. So it's not that the land cannot be filled with trees. For that, one must have the knowledge of how to do it. Similarly, we see if you give someone a mango seed and you tell them you make a fruit out of this, if the person doesn't know the art of cultivation, he will think, oh, it's impossible. From the seed, how can I get a fruit? But if someone actually knows the art of how to cultivate a mango seed and to create a mango tree, which gives rise to many fruits and which again give rise to seeds, and those seeds are sown to give more fruits, then it is possible. So the point is, to make a land filled with crops, or to make a seed into fruit and fruit with seeds and those seeds into fruit, is very difficult for someone who doesn't know it. But for someone who knows it, an expert farmer who knows to cultivate the land with the use of proper facilities, then it is possible. So similarly, in this verse, Canto 8, Chapter 3, Text 11, Gajendra is speaking about the qualifications needed to impress the Supreme Lord, to force the Supreme Lord to appear in the purview of our sense perception. And what is that? He says, Sattvena pratilabhyaya. What is this sattva? Katham bhutena sattvena. Sattva means bhakti. Sattva basically means Vishuddha Sattva. The names of Krishna, the Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila, Grahana, Smaranam, the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Navadha Bhakti, or the Panchanga Bhakti, this all comes under the category of Sattvena Pratilabhyaya, which means Krishna, you can be obtained only by someone who performs bhakti. And we discussed yesterday how this bhakti, when performed, naishkarmyena vipaschita. One, it destroys all past reactions. And the proof, the praman that we provided was from Brahma Samhita. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. With examples we established how when bhakti is performed for the pleasure of Krishna, just like a soldier who fights for the government, he is not punished, but he is actually appreciated with medals. Although he is killing, the same thing if a serial killer does, he is hanged to death. But when the soldier does on the war front, he is given accolades and even stars on his uniform shoulder. So the point is, when bhakti is performed only and only for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, then all the karma of the past activities, not just of this body, but of all the past lives, is burned to ashes. So why wouldn't anyone perform? So someone may say, what happens for the future reactions, the activities which are performed in the future? Then the meaning of that, of naishkarmyena vipaschita, there the meaning of naishkarmya, the second meaning that we promised yesterday, was nipuna karma, which means this naishkarmya, this bhakti, is the best thing to be done through our senses. With these senses, this is the best activity to be performed. See, bhakti is better than all other angas or other paths, because karma can completely elevate one to heaven. But once the jiva is elevated to heaven, all his activities that he has done in the karma yoga platform are finished. Because now he has got the fruit of heaven, now he'll enjoy, he will come back and starts from zero. Gyan marg, it destroys avidya and then it is done. But when bhakti is performed, bhakti goes from shraddha, sadhusanga, bhajan kriya, anartha nivritti, nishtha, ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema. And now in prema also it goes from sneha, man, pranay, rag, anurag, bhav, mahabhav, etc., going up to the love of the gopis. So even the love of the gopis in our eternal abode is also the most matured fruit of bhakti. All other processes, they take us up to a certain point and they give up, they retract. But bhakti continues not just as a sadhana, but even as the fruit of our sadhya, of our goal. Also we see, to perform karma marg or jnana marg, one has to be, it depends on one's own ability. And if we are capable, we are able to do it. And if we are not capable, we fall. But the process of bhakti is so sublime that it depends on Krishna's grace. So Krishna is not result oriented, he is effort oriented. So he just sees our effort and then he showers his grace and then he does the impossible. This bhakti can be performed at all stages. Like for example, we see how Prahlad Maharaj performed bhakti while being in the womb of his mother Kayadu. We see how Dhruva Maharaj performed bhakti while being a child in this world. We see how Ambarish Maharaj performed bhakti while being in the middle age of his life. We see how Dhritarashtra accepted Krishna's position in his old age. We see how Ajamil performed bhakti on the brink of death. And we see how Chitraketu performed bhakti and perfected his life even after death. So in this way, bhakti is a process which is beyond time, place and circumstance and is applicable for each one of us at all times to come. So Gajendra here is saying Sattvena Pratilabhyaya, that when someone performs bhakti, then Krishna comes in his sense perception. The past activities, reactions are all burnt to ashes, and the future ones are like a rope which has been burnt. So if there is a rope which is in a circular form and it has been burnt, the ashes of the rope also seem in a circle. But however, when you try to lift them, they fall off. So the future karmic actions and reactions, they are like ropes which are burnt. They appear to be reactions, but they cannot bind the jiva. This is what is the meaning of naishkarmyena. When bhakti is performed, this is how it influences. Bhakti is like a forest fire which burns all the snakes like karmic reactions. So in this way, naishkarmyena vipaschita. What does the word vipaschita mean? The word vipaschita means Tivra Bhakti. Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param. That bhakti must not be performed with a half-hearted or with a disheartened heart. Bhakti must be performed susukham kartum avyayam, with lot of faith and hope and with lot of joy that this is the best thing that I must do. This is the best thing that has happened in my life. Shraddha shabdhe vishwasa kohe sudhrida nischay Krishna bhakti kaile sarva karma krita hoy. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Shraddha or true faith means bhakti is the only thing that I am born to do. Everything else is done to facilitate my devotion to Sri Hari. But performance of bhakti to Sri Hari is why I am breathing, is why I am walking, is why I am alive. So one must perform bhakti vipaschita with tivra, with intensity, which means sudhrida. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhrida vrataha. Yatantascha means yatana, to really struggle and put hard work. Dhrida vrata, with vrata, with strong inclination to do the do's and to refrain from the don'ts. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati iti vishwaso goptritve varanam tatha atmanikshepa karpanyo shadvidha sharanagati. That one must be very convinced that the things which are favorable to take me to Krishna are the things I want to do, even if they are things that I don't like to do. On the other hand, things which are not favorable, even if those are the things that I love to do, I must give them up without a second thought. This is vipaschita. So to be dhrida to be very focused and not giving our heart half-heartedly, but completely. Like for example, if you put some eatable into the microwave oven for about 5 seconds and we take it out for 10 seconds and again keep it inside for about 5 seconds and then we take it out for 10 seconds and again keep it in for 5 seconds and take it out for 10 seconds, the food will never get hot. But if the same thing we keep it in the microwave oven for about 1 minute or 2 minutes, not the fact that I am encouraging the use of microwave oven, that's a different discussion altogether, but just for the sake of making a point through an example, if we keep it in and out like this, the food will never get hot. But on the other hand, if you keep it in for a minute or two, then you see that the food gets hot. What does that mean? We are like those vessels having those food. And when we sit in the microwave oven of bhakti, then it gets intense, it gets hot, it gets fructified very quickly. On the other hand, we want to sit in the microwave of bhakti for about 5 seconds and then jump out into this world for about another 10 seconds and then go in and go out. We play this game of being lukewarm. This is why in the Bible Jesus says very famously, I accept you hot or I accept you cold, but if you're lukewarm, I spit you out. So either we accept that we want to be a materialist and we try to enjoy this world, get frustrated and again come back to the process of bhakti, or we jump into the process of bhakti as if this is all that I am born for lifetimes. I've been searching for this and now that I've got it, I will not give it up. Just like we see, if there is a wood piece and it is completely wet, drenched with water, we try to light it and get fire out of it. We'll see it's a failed attempt. On the other hand, if this wood is dry, then it catches fire very quickly. So our consciousness is like that wood. And water on that wood piece represents the joys of this world, the spirit of enjoying our senses. But the fire that we are talking about is the fire of bhakti. So for the wood to catch fire, it must be dry. Similarly, our consciousness to catch the fire of bhakti very quickly, then one must give up the water-like sense gratification of this world and be completely convinced. This is vipaschita, naishkarmyena vipaschita. One time I remember my spiritual master Srila Guru Maharaj was saying this point and also mentioning on a personal front that the devotees must always have the bead bag with them, because we see the bead bag has a thread on the top, not so that we put it on the nail on our wall, but we put it around our neck so that whenever we have time we put our hand in and start chanting. Srila Guru Maharaj gives the example that the soldier has to fight a Kargil war, let's say only once in a few years, whenever the country needs help. But he's always practicing and he's always holding a gun in his hand, because by that practice, he perfects on the war front. Similarly, we have to die once in a life, so to speak. But then for us to fight well at the time of death, we have to practice holding the gun all through. Which means the more we chant now, more is the probability we remember Krishna at the time of death. So this is vipaschita, naishkarmyena vipaschita, to be completely absorbed and to be convinced this is what I'm born for. So Gajendra is saying if one has that one-pointed spirit, uncompromising spirit, sattvena pratilabhyaya naishkarmyena vipaschita, then the Supreme Lord, you appear in front of such a devotee. So now the next two lines, Gajendra calls the Supreme Lord as Namaha Kaivalya Nathaya. So Namaha, of course, means to bow down, and Kaivalya Nathaya, it's a very beautiful address to the Supreme Lord. Now the word Kaivalya comes from the simple word Kevala. Kevala. We mentioned yesterday how Krishna is called Kaivalya Nath because Kaivalya means liberation, and he is the Lord of liberation. But this is a deeper meaning now. The word Kaivalya comes from the word Kevala, and we know the word Kevala means only. Like Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Namaiva Kevalam, Kalau Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nyasteva Gatiranyatha. Kevalam means only, without any other way out. So the spiritual world is called as Kevala Dham. Why? Because the spiritual world is made only of spirit. Kevala Spirit Dham. Spirit, completely Chinmay. So the spiritual world is Chinmaya Shakti Dham, Chid Vilas Dham, Kevala Chinmaya. It is only made out of spiritual substance. Our world is not like that. In this world that we live in, jivas are spiritual sparks, but the bodies are material. Circumstances in this world are material. Places are material. Objects are material. So there's very less spirit, but there's more matter. You see, the spirit, we say, drives the body, but the spirit is so subtle that it can even be seen. It is so spiritual, it is not even seen. But all that is seen is matter. Jiva and Paramatma are very small and they're running the show. It's almost like the Tatastha Shakti trapped in a body which is Bahiranga Shakti. At one time one is born, another time another dies. At one time one product is being manufactured, at another time another product crosses over its shelf life period of expiration. So in this way we see, in this world there is manufacturing and expiry. There's deterioration, there's growth, there's constant change in the source of matter. There's so much variety, variegatedness, so to speak. But there is a difference between body and the soul. It's filled with matter. Therefore, it is called as the material world. But however, we as devotees, we should repeat a statement again and again. Matter does not matter. We go again. Matter does not matter. So this material world filled with material joy should not matter. In this world, everything is lifeless. Everything is dead and inanimate. However, in the spiritual world, which is Kevala Dham, everything is spiritual. In this world, things which are material also in their original state in the spiritual world are completely spiritual. Like we see in the Harry Potter movies, we see like the stairs are moving and sometimes pictures on the wall are talking and so many things which people get attracted to, and that is the sole purpose why the book made billions of dollars profit with the storyline, with the Warner Brother production, so to speak. So why is all this attracting the hearts? Because we belong to that world where everything moves, where everything talks, where there's nothing which is lifeless. Like we see in the Damodar Leela, the milk in the pot is boiling over, thinking, I'm losing a chance to enter Krishna's mouth. Let me jump into fire and give up my body. So if milk in Goloka Vrindavan is having so much feelings and emotions and wants to commit suicide in separation of Krishna, you can think about it. Even Uddhava wants to be a blade of grass in Vrindavan. Goloka Vrindavan is the land of gurus. Imagine our Gurudev is so worshipable Think about every single being in Goloka Vrindavan. They're all Diksha Gurus, having thousands and thousands of disciples of their own. Those are the people who live there. So it is the land of Gurus, Goloka Vrindavan. So Krishna, you are Kaivalyanatha, which means you are ultimately the Lord of the spiritual realm. All of these things in the spiritual realm are completely inconceivable. But my Lord, of all these inconceivable things, you are the Lord, you are the Natha. What does this mean? It doesn't mean that the Supreme Lord is just the Natha of that world. He is also the Natha, the Lord of this world. But if a person owns $1 million, it naturally means that he owns $10. But you don't say, oh, he owns $10. You just say he owns $1 million, which means he also owns everything under $1 million. He owns everything up to that point. So by saying that the Supreme Lord owns the spiritual world, which is Namaha Kaivalyanatha, it also naturally means that the Supreme Lord owns even this world. So Gajendra here is making a very significant point. Krishna is not just the Lord. So there's a very interesting point to be made here. So I'll just quickly say that. In South India, there's a very beautiful temple called as Guruvayur. And there used to be a devotee by the name Narayana Bhattadri, who was a very big Sanskrit scholar, who very famously wrote the Narayaniyam work. But there was another devotee by the name Pundana Nambudri, who was not so good in Sanskrit, but he was a Bhava Bhakta. So these two devotees were very different in their profile. Pundanam was a devotee from his heart, and Narayana Bhattadri was also a devotee, but his primary focus was his scholastic ability. So one day, as Pundanam, this devotee, was offering his obeisances and prayers to Krishna, he started chanting the Vishnu Sahasranam, and he called the Supreme Lord as Amarendra prabhu. So Narayana Bhattadri heard this and he laughed. He said, Amarendra prabhu? Krishna is not Amarendra prabhu. He is Amarendra prabhu. Amara means immortality and Prabhu means Lord. He is the Lord whose lotus feet provides immortality. But according to Sanskrit usage, to complete the word, it is written as Amarendra prabhu, but the actual word is Amarendra prabhu. So when Narayana Bhattadri corrected Pundanam like this, so Pundanam readily agreed. But that night, Krishna came in the dream of Narayana Bhattadri and said, you rascal, what do you think of yourself? If I am the Lord of Amara, I am definitely the Lord of Mara also. Amara means the immortals and Mara means the mortals, or Mara also means the trees. Oh Narayana Bhattadri, if you say I am the Lord of Amara, the immortal beings, then I am definitely the Lord of everything underneath, behind, above immortality, below immortality, and left, right, center, front, back, everything. I am the Lord of everything that exists. So you call me as the Lord Amarendra prabhu, the Lord of immortality. He addresses me as Amarendra prabhu, the Lord of mortality. He, the Lord of the mortal beings who makes them immortal, or the Lord of trees. So you're glorifying me in a different way. He's glorifying me in a different way. I am ultimately the Lord of everything that exists. So through this story we see how the Lord is not just Amarendra prabhu, He is also Amarendra prabhu. He is the Lord of everything in that spectrum. So when Krishna is called as Kaivalyanath, as the Lord of Vaikuntha, that also means naturally He is the Lord of this world. So why is Gajendra saying this? Gajendra is strategically saying this, that my Lord, you are the Lord of that world where everything is so spiritual. You don't have to jump in this world to help me. You absolutely don't have to. No sane man will jump into a sewage because he doesn't have to. No one will force him. But Krishna, you are so kind. I am calling you through these prayers. You don't have to come in this world. Still you are thinking to come. I am suffering in this body, in this world. I am a Tatastha Shakti covered by Bahiranga Shakti, the external energy, and you are the Kaivalyanath. You don't have to come in this world. But my Lord, because I am trying to offer Satvena Pratilabhyayana Ishkarmyana Vipaschita, with intensity I am calling out to you, Namaha Kaivalya Nathaya. My Lord, still you are coming in this realm to support and help me. So it's very, very strategic like that. And the word Natha is also very significant. The word Natha means our master. Radharani calls Krishna in the Bhagavatam, Ha Natha Ramana Preshtha Kvasi Kvasi Mahabhuja Dasyaste Kripanayame Sakhe Darshaya Sannidhim. O Krishna, Ha Natha, you are my Nath, you are the Lord of my life. This is why in South India, Krishna is Ranganath. He is Ranganath. Or in Rameshwaram, he is Ramanath. And then you see in the north, Badri Vishal, he is Badrinath. And you see in Gujarat, he is Dwarkanath. And Puri, he is Jagannath. So he is always the Nath, even in this world. So Gajendra is calling out to the Supreme Lord like that. Which naturally means the other demigods are not Nath. It's only Krishna or Vishnu who is the Nath. We see in the Bhagavatam, when Muchukunda Maharaj won the battle for the demigods asked him, what can we give you? Muchukunda Maharaj said, I want Vaikuntha. I want to enter the eternal abode of the Lord. The demigods laughed. They said, we ourselves are waiting for that day when we can enter. How can we give you something that we don't have? Can you ask for something else? So that's a proof that even demigods, who are very empowered, they are very great souls, but they cannot give us liberation. So to cut that point very straight, Gajendra calls out to Krishna or Vishnu as Kaivalyanatha. No one else apart from you is the Lord of that spiritual abode. And when the Lord comes in our purview, what does he come to give us? Nirvana Sukha Samvide. Very beautiful words. Now the word Nirvana is very interesting. Nirvana. So Vana or Ban, just like in Hindi we say Ban, Usne Ban Mara. Ban means an arrow. So when we use a bow and arrow, what does it give us? It gives us suffering. When we are hit by an arrow through a bow, then it gives us suffering. So Vana or Bana means suffering, and Nirvana means no suffering. This is why in the Buddhist philosophy they talk about Nirvana. They want nothing else but Nirvana. Sukh Shanti. Shanti Shanti. Like that. One time one man from America, he came to India to find God. And he went to the Himalayas and he sat with so many different Mayavadis and Buddhists, and they taught him Nirvana. He said, but what activity am I supposed to do? They said, do nothing. Just stay away from material life and then you will get Nirvana. He practiced that for some time, got bored, came back to America, and he started Apple. That was Steve Jobs. And then later he writes that I got so bored there doing nothing because they told me stay away from suffering. In this way you will be happy. But I had no positive engagement to absorb my mind. Therefore I decided, if I don't get anything there, at least let me do something good in this world. And this is why he started the Apple Corporation as Steve Jobs. So the point is, our spiritual life is not just about nirvana. Nirvana means being away from suffering. Vana means suffering and nir means without suffering. So if there is a pot filled with poison, just by pouring the poison out, one cannot drink from the pot. One has to pour the poison out, clean the pot, fill it with nectar, and then now you can drink. So similarly, our hearts, this material life, our experiences are like a pot of poison. Just keeping the poison of suffering out doesn't give us happiness. We have to keep the poison suffering out by replacing it with the nectar of true happiness. Vacancy or absence of suffering is not happiness. Just like we very famously know, if there is a person who is forced, whose head is pushed underwater for a few seconds and then taken out and he's gasping, and then again his head is pushed into water, and then again he's gasping, you take him out and again you push him. So that time when he's taken out of water, that may seem to be happiness, but actually it is not. It is simply absence of suffering. True happiness means not even being in that situation. So Gajendra is saying, my Lord, you are not a person who will simply use your Sudarshan Chakra cut me out of this bondage and leave me like that. You are not nirvana samvide, you are nirvana sukha samvide. You take away the suffering and fill the person with happiness. This is your nature. This is your quality. You fill the person with unending bliss. This is your main quality. So we have to know this point, that just simply removing negativity from our life, that I will keep away from all bad things, is not going to keep us happy. Sometimes there are people, they go away from the city hardcore life and go into the forests or in the countryside, and they just want to hear the sound of nature and the trickling down of waterfall and the chirping of the birds. But then again, you'll have to come back to city life. So just staying away from city life and taking some break from that is not going to give you happiness. That is simply absence of suffering of city life. But we have to find a path by which we can be happy. Sukha is different from nirvana. Therefore, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj gives a very beautiful example in his classes. Maharaj gives the example of the sack race. You see, when kids play sack race, you see that they're tied, their feet are tied in sack and they're trying to run. But they're almost like jumping. So they're making some progress, but it's very little and insignificant. Now, if the sack is taken out from the feet, you can see the person run way more faster. So we are like those people stuck in the sack race of this material body. We are Atma, and the sack race, the sack is the body. We Atma as the spirit souls are stuck in the sack of this body. We are still finding some pleasure in this world, just like the person in the sack is making some advancement. But if the sack is not there, imagine how fast he will run. So which means if in the material world itself, covered by the sack of this material body, if we are finding some progress in happiness, imagine in the absence of this body, in spiritual happiness, how much progress, in spiritual body, how much happiness is there. So that nirvana sukha samvide, Krishna is ready to give. And in this world, every source of happiness comes with its own expiry date. It comes with its own problem. Like food, for example. The food that gives us so much pleasure today, if that same food is eaten after 5 days, it will give us stomach upset. So imagine, this is the nature of pleasure in this world. What happens to be as happiness, if you change the time period or the circumstance, it can be the cause of suffering. But Krishna doesn't give us happiness mixed with suffering like that. He takes away our suffering, nirvana, and then gives us happiness, keeping us completely joyful at all times. So let's take text 12 now. 8:3-12. Namaha shantaya ghoraya mudhaya gunadharmine nirvisheshaya samyaya namo jnana ghanaya cha. So the Supreme Lord is now called as Namaha Shantaya Ghoraya Mudhaya. Very beautiful. Gajendra first of all calls to Krishna as Shantaya. O Krishna, he who is very peaceful. Shanta. You see, externally the Supreme Lord looks very peaceful. Shanta karam bhujaka shayanam padmanabham suresham vishwadharam gagana sadrisham meghavarnam shubhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamala Nayanam Yogi Ridhyana Gamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikanaatham. So he Shantakaram Bhujaka Shayanam. Imagine we see a snake in our, let's say, in a backyard, and we are frightened to death. We just want to kill the snake and push it out. But the Supreme Lord as Krishna is dancing on the hoods of Kaliya. And as Vishnu, he's sleeping on the bed of snakes. Imagine. We sometimes are sleeping on the bed praying that there should not be a snake underneath. But Vishnu is sleeping on the bed of snakes. And how is he? Shantakaram. His akara, his form is Shanta. Shantakaram bhujaka shayanam. Although he is sleeping on the bed of snakes, he is most peaceful. This is his nature. He is always peaceful. Even when Bhrigu Muni comes and kicks his chest, he is very peaceful. Even when Madhai hits the head of Nitai, he is very peaceful. So this is Shantaya. Not just his nature, even his appearance is very peaceful. He has Kasturi Tilakam Lalata Patale Vakshasthale Kaustubam Nasagre Varamauktikam Karatale Benuhu Karai Kankanam Sarvangi Harichandanam Sulalitam Kantecha Muktavali Gopastri Pariveshtito Vijayate Gopala Chudamani. Sripad Vallabhacharya has written very beautifully that Kasturi Tilakam Lalata Patale. Krishna has a very beautiful tilak made of Kasturi. And Kasturi Tilakam Lalata Patale Vakshasthale Kaustubam. And on his chest he has a Kaustuba Mani. Nasagre Varamauktikam. On the tip of his nose he has the most exuberant pearl. And Nasagre Varamauktikam Karatale Venuhu. On his wrist he is holding the flute with the end of his fingertips, but it's the movement of his wrists. Karatale Venuhu Karai Kankanam. And on his wrist he has the bangles. Sarvangi Harichandanam. All his body is filled with chandan. But what chandan? Hari Chandan. Hari Chandan is that chandan where tulsi leaves are also used to grind it. So it becomes very cooling for Krishna. Sarvangi Harichandanam Su Lalitam. He looks very beautiful. And Kantecha Muktavali. On his throat he has a necklace of pearls. Gopastri Pariveshtito Vijayate Gopala Chudamani. Oh, that crest jewel of the protectors of the cows who has kidnapped the hearts of the gopis. So how peaceful is his appearance? Even as Ram, Shantam Shashwatam Aprameyam Anagham Nirvana Shanti Pradam. Prabhupada started the 1968 Radhashtami class with this verse glorifying Ram. That Shantam Shashwatam Aprameyam Anagham from Sundarkand. That how peaceful and how beautiful Sri Ram looks. So Gajendra is calling out to Krishna here as Shantaya. He whose external appearance is also peaceful and internal behavior is also peaceful. Why does he say that? Because not all of them have a very peaceful appearance. Like when you look at Lord Shiva or Goddess Durga, you see blood dripping from the mouth. You see snakes on the neck. You see a garland of skulls. You see a trishul. You see ashes all over the body. You see tiger or tiger skin. You see 10 hands. You see kumkum on the forehead. And you see deer skin, etc. And ghostly associates, crematorium ashes and so on and so forth. So amidst all this, somebody can get scared with this snake. But Vishnu and Sri Krishna's appearance by default, their form, their nature is Shantaya. Very, very peaceful inside out. But at the same time, Gajendra is saying, my Lord, not just you are Shantaya, but at the same time Ghoraya. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented, here Gajendra is remembering the pastime of Narasimhadev. Why? Ghora. My Lord, you love your devotees so much that although you are always Shanta, for your devotee you sometimes become Ghora also. You can appear from a pillar. You can have very sharp snake-like tongue licking the blood of Hiranyakashipu. You can tear apart the heart and throw the heart, pulling the intestines and garlanding yourself with that. You can drink palmfuls of blood from the abdomen of Hiranyakashipu. And at the same time you can tear and rip apart everything with your ferocious nails and teeth. So in this way, that Lord who's very peaceful, for his devotee he can become Ghora. Not just Ghora, Gajendra is saying, my Lord, you can even become Mudha, like Varahadev. Sukaroti iti sukara. You can go on smelling. Sukara means the wild pig, the wild boar. Varahadev went on smelling for the exact position of Mother Earth. He went on smelling and sniffing all over the place. How much he loved Mother Earth, that he is going to sniff, and he has taken an appropriate form underwater. So Namaha Shantaya, my Lord, you are peaceful, but for Prahlad you became Ghora, for Mother Earth you became Mudha as Varahadev. How wonderful. Acharyas have commented that the Shantaya could mean Rama Avatar, could mean Krishna Avatar, could mean Vamana Avatar, and Ghoraya could mean Narasimha Avatar, Parshuram Avatar, Kalki Avatar, and Mudhaya could refer to Matsya Avatar, Kurma Avatar, Varahat Avatar, etc. So in this way, the Dashavatar has been covered by Gajendra in the first line. My Lord, you appear Shanta, Ghora and Mudha. Another meaning to this, the Acharyas are commenting that Shanta refers to the mode of goodness, and Ghora refers to the mode of passion, and Mudha refers to the mode of ignorance. So my Lord, as the three Guna avatars, you appear as Vishnu, Shantaya, to maintain the creation, as Brahma in the mode of Rajas, creation process, as Ghoraya, and Mudhaya, you appear as Lord Shiva to take care of the mode of ignorance in the destruction process of this creation. So for creation, maintenance and destruction, you need Rajas, Sattva and Tamas. Therefore Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, and therefore Shantaya, Ghoraya, Mudhaya. How beautifully Gajendra has described everything in one line. Namaha Shantaya, Ghoraya, Mudhaya, Gunadharmine. So although the Supreme Lord is called Mudha here, we must understand there is a difference between the Mudhata that the Supreme Lord takes when he comes as Varaha, in contrast to when Indra becomes Varaha by the curse of Gautama Rishi. The contrasting difference is when the Supreme Lord became Varahadev in the form of the pig, he remembered his identity while Indra forgot his identity. The Supreme Lord's body was Satchit Ananda, completely spiritual, while Indra's body was completely material. Third point is the Supreme Lord was tasting pleasure on a spiritual platform, although he appeared as a pig. When he shook his body, Brahma was standing with his palms wide open to collect the Charanamrit, the Anga Amrit, the nectarian water washing the body of Varahadev. Vasati dashana shikhare dharani tava lagna, shashini kalanka kaleva nimagna, keshava drita sukara rupa, jaya jagadisha hare. On the other hand, Indra was definitely not enjoying pleasure on the spiritual platform when he became the pig. So point we have to note is that the Lord may appear in any form, but the modes don't act on him. In fact, in the Taittiriya Upanishad it is described, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa asaha anandam brahmano vidwan na bibheti kadachana. What it actually means is that all the words of glorification that we can offer towards the Supreme Lord, Yato vacho nivartante, they all come back. All our words come back. What does that mean? When we say, oh Krishna, you are like a moon. So this glorification goes up to Goloka, and then the words check whether it is true or no. Is it true? Is Krishna like a moon? No, it's an offense, because moon is a very bad example to describe Krishna. Because it doesn't describe Krishna, it becomes untrue, so the words come back to us. We get the benefit of glorifying him, but because they are untrue, they don't enter that realm. We say, oh, Krishna is like an ocean of mercy. Wonderful. The words go up to Goloka Vrindavan. Is he actually like the ocean of mercy? No, he's way more oceanic than an ocean as far as mercy. So we get the benefit of glorifying him. But because it doesn't completely describe him, the words come back. Then we say, well, Krishna is like a lotus flower. So the words go up to Goloka Vrindavan. And are the words true? Well, lotus gets glorified when it is said that Krishna is like a lotus. But it's not a befitting example for Krishna, because Krishna is way more beautiful, way more tender, way more attractive and fragrant than a lotus. So there is nothing in our description which can reach and completely describe Krishna. But still, when we do that, it comes back to give us the blessings to the best that we can try. So here Gajendra is saying, Namaha Shantaya, Ghoraya, Mudhaya, Guna Dharmine. Depending on the Guna Dharma, whether it is Sattva, Rajas or Tamas, you are accepting these forms. Then he says, Nirvisheshaya, Samyaya, Namo Jnana Ghanaya cha. Very beautiful. Nirvishesha. Nirvishesha means, so Shesha means that which is left over. And Vishesha means that which has a very specific, differentiated existence. Just like we say in Hindi also, in Marathi also, we say Vishesh, something that is very special. So Shesha means that which is left over. Vishesha means that which is after creation, that which has very distinct identity. And Nirvishesha means that which is undifferentiated, undivided. So what is that Nirvishesha? That is Brahman, Brahma Jyoti. So here Nirvisheshaya means, my Lord, although you in your abode appear in a form which is very peaceful, you can appear in this world as Ghora and Mudha for your devotees, but at the same time, my Lord, your Brahma Jyoti is so effulgent that it lights up the whole creation. You are staying in Goloka, but your Brahma Jyoti is making everything beautiful in this world. Golokameva nivasati akhilatma bhuto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabi stabirya eva nijarupataya kalabhi. Golokameva nivasati akhilatma bhuto. Golokameva nivasati. Krishna, you live in Goloka, but your Brahma Jyoti effulgence is lighting up this world. Millions and millions of suns get dull in front of the effulgence coming from Krishna's body. So Gajendra here is bowing down to that Brahma Jyoti also. So it is described that Bhushana Bhushanangam, that when Krishna would wear ornaments, then the ornaments would get beautified and decorated by being on Krishna's body. Shripad Sanatan Goswami in the Digdarshini Tika to the Damodara Ashtakam, he says, Namami Ishwaram Satchitananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam. See, he said, Namami Ishwaram, I bow down to the Ishwara, the Supreme Lord. Which Ishwara? Satchitananda Rupam. He whose form is full of bliss, but the Brahma Jyoti effulgence coming from his body is so much that Lasat Kundalam. Immediately he has spoken about the ornaments, that his earring becomes effulgent and beautiful, Lasat, by the bodily rays coming from the Supreme Lord. The ornaments shine when they are on Krishna's body, because Krishna's body, the effulgence, is the Brahma Jyoti. Also, Krishna's body is so beautiful, he doesn't need any makeup. When he wakes up in the morning, he doesn't have to clear his eyes and ears and wash his mouth, because there is no impurity in Krishna. The sun can evaporate a pool of urine and purify the place, but that doesn't mean the urine gets stuck on the face of the sun. If the sun of this material world is like that, where he can purify others but still remain pure, what to speak of Krishna? His name can purify innumerable jivas and their contamination, but that doesn't mean he or his name get impure. So Krishna's body doesn't need any purity, because it's all pure, it's all beautiful, it's all effulgent. And what to speak of the Brahma Jyoti coming out of his body? So Gajendra here, he is bowing down to that Brahma Jyoti. Nirvisheshaya Samyaya. Samyaya means, my Lord, you in your creation process, everything is in an equilibrium. But when you glance, Prakriti gets agitated and the whole creation takes place. Samyaya also means, my Lord, you are also equipoised. Samaha, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu. You are always equally disposed to everyone. So Gajendra is touching that section of Krishna's heart. Which section? Krishna is saying, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu Name Dveshosti Napriyaha Ye Bhajante Tu Mam Bhaktya Maite Teshu Chapyaham. Gajendra has said, I am equal. Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita that I am equal to everyone. I don't love anyone, I don't hate anyone. But ye bhajante tumam bhaktya. But anyone who calls out to me with tears, with my names, maite teshu chapyaham, oh, I become very dear to them, and they become very dear to me. So Gajendra is saying, my Lord, you are no wonder. You are, the Brahma Jyoti emanates from you, and you're equal to everyone, I agree. But haven't you also said that ye bhajante tu mam bhaktya, those who call out to you, you will come to them? Here is the time, my Lord, to prove those words right. Samyaya, you are equipoised, not just in the creation technicality, but even in your heart, you maintain equilibrium. But Krishna, please break that equilibrium, because I am calling out with devotion. And jnana ghanayacha, you are the abode of all knowledge. So I hope you remember your own words, that you come when your devotees call out to you. When Draupadi calls out to you, you come. When Prahlad calls out to you, you come. And my Lord, now is the time to prove that you are the abode of all knowledge. You say from you comes remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. So now is the time, my Lord, for you to remember your own words, that you are equipoised, you are equal to everyone, but you are not heartless. when someone calls out to you, Ye bhajante tumam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham. Hey jnana ghana, O abode of all knowledge, please remember your own words. Samyaya, that you're equal, but at the same time, you have a heart pumping for those whose hearts are pumping for you. Krishna, please now walk the talk and appear in this scene as I am breaking all shyness and all borders and all boundaries of hope, and I'm calling out to you, Krishna, please kindly come in the purview of my senses. Having said this, Gajendra wraps up this prayer to take on the next verse, which will be the discussion for tomorrow night. We go from 7 to 8, same time, on Facebook Live again tomorrow night. Please kindly join us. We will take from text 13 onwards to a few texts ahead in the 1 hour time that we have. And in the next few days, we will be wrapping up with all the prayers of the Gajendra Stuti. So please stay tuned, and please, if possible, I request, kindly incorporate these prayers with their meanings in your daily prayers so that you can practically implement all that we are spending time together about. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bhava.